Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Miel, CEO of Experience Agency B Flash. Each episode, I bring on a different business leader who's doing some game-changing work. And, as we're trying to navigate this wacky, weird time of COVID, we're 1,000 months into this. It's great to hear what business leaders are doing and helping other companies communicate their stories effectively as we navigate through this. And so I'm delighted to have Jen Risi, who's the founder and president of the Sway Effect. So I'm going to talk about her journey from going from a big agency to starting her own and what it's been like in the middle of a global pandemic. It's going to be a great conversation. Take a listen. Hey, Jen.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, just hanging by my desk all day long, never leaving it. The usual.
True story. Literally, there's no start or stop to today anymore.
Just here, and more here. Even though we're still in this madness, the podcast still remains constant. So the first question still remains the same. Jen, what was your first job?
My first job was, I was actually, back in the day, I was a camp counselor when I was in high school. It was my first job where I finally was paid, which was awesome. But I got to spend my summers still at the beach with kids, and we went and we actually went on a lot of trips and stuff throughout New York with the camp. And in school, in college, I went to Barnard College, and I was a psychology major. So I always liked to work with kids. I studied kids when I was at school as part of a toddler program. So it was a great way to spend the summer, working with kids, but being outside the whole time.
Being outside, what is that?
I should have treasured it a lot more.
And I bet you learned a lot about how to, if you can manage kids during the summertime, that probably did prepare you for working in advertising agency world.
I don't know if I should answer that question. Yes.
It's a common thing. Like lots of people tend to be babysitters, worked in retail, camp counselors. Like there is an interesting correlation between that being your first job and then being someone who ends up working in advertising as a leader. Because herding cats and children was always a skill that you had and then learned to grow even more so as you build up your career. So it's a common thing from 100 and some odd episodes of the podcast today.
Very interesting. That's cool.
So now that you're a few years away from working with kids, what was the journey like from starting there to like creating the Sway Effect? I mean, you've had an illustrious career working with some of the biggest advertising agencies in our industry. Like how did that all happen and how did we get to the Sway Effect?
So my first job, I was in PR was for, at the time, Shandwick International, long before it became Weber Shandwick. And I always thought that I was going to study psychology, but I figured I should get a job before I potentially went back to school. And I honestly didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I went and got this job at Shandwick International at the time, answering the phones at the receptionist desk. And I was put into the corporate practice at Shandwick International. I didn't know what PR was. I didn't know what communications was. I went to a liberal arts school, so I didn't really have a lot of experience, and it wound up being something that I love to do. I used what I learned in my degree from psychology and how to work with the press. In addition to, I learned that I was pretty good at business. I don't know if I was put in a different part of the agency, whether it was consumer or tech, I would have still be in PR. But I really think my passion was doing corporate work and really helping brands manage their message. And I moved up the ladder pretty quickly there, up until when they finally became Weber Shandwick. Built their global media team there, and then went over to Ogilvy for another 8 years. And I built their media influence practice. I rose to be worldwide chief communications officer, did some amazing work, traveled all over the world, built up an extensive team. But I learned new crafts beyond PR, working at an integrated agency. I learned how to do advertising. I learned creative. I learned branding. I'm not an expert, but I learned how to do integrated work, which was which I think helps me do better work now. And I learned every day that I was there. And then a little over a year ago, I decided that, I was the face of the company as the chief communications officer. I was driving media relations for many of our top clients at Ogilvy. And I really wanted to really change up what was being done at the agency. I really believe in diversity, equity, inclusion. And I really had a big passion to try to help make the organization a better place and the industry a better place. And I realized that maybe I needed to create my own. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to create a culture that I knew clients wanted, clients needed, partners wanted, and that teams wanted to be a part of. So I happened to be thinking I wanted to leave and create my own agency. And the name, the Sway Effect just came to me, which I believe everything happens for a reason. And the fact that that name just came to me and then things just started to unfold as easy as they did. In the fact that I decided to leave and people approached me, not only clients approached me to work with me, but partners approached me about working with me. People I'd worked with over my career, experts in their field that didn't do what I do. And so Sway went from being a PR shop with me, just me, to being a network of independent marketing and communications agencies. So I have a great roster of former clients, former partners who are now part of the Sway network, not only in the US, but even globally, that we do high level communications work, brand strategy work, creative work, digital work. We just added a new agency to the roster that does data analytics work. So the agency has really morphed from an idea into a legit agency that has a pretty significant roster of clients and staff in pretty much a little over a year. And so, didn't expect COVID to be going on when I decided to do this, but it's kept things pretty interesting. I mean, we've never been busier because brands need communications partners more than ever. And it has not been boring. And I'll tell you, I've probably done some of the best work in my career during this time because we literally are sitting at the table with all of our clients. So that's a long answer, but I probably gave you a 20-year career in about 5 minutes.
You did a great job on that. Like, you must be in PR. Because I got the whole pitch. And thank you, because I think that's kind of interesting, especially right now, because I think a lot of folks in our industry are kind of stuck in quicksand where they know they have to do things differently. They know they have to adapt, but they're just stuck. And so having leaders like you who would be like, okay, here's how we get unstuck. It is probably part of the reason that you guys are so heavily in demand. What are some of the things that you're seeing that you hope that your clients get to be successful right now?
What are we seeing in relation to what clients need to do?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that they need to be authentic and they need to be out there. I mean, now's not the time to hide. I mean, one of my clients recently said, like, don't waste a crisis. And, this is the time. And I don't even tell her to say that. She's not a PR expert. It was a great soundbite. Don't waste a crisis. But I think that, brands need to be out there. This is a time where if you do it right and you're authentic and you're visible and you're finding ways to connect with consumers and your customers, you actually can grow your business. I mean, there are some businesses that are going to have challenges just based on the circumstance. Like the travel industry, it is what it is. I mean, that is, people are not traveling. People are not going to hotels. But there are a lot of industries that are seeing growth and a lot of brands that are seeing growth because they are being active. They're seeing what's happening in the world and they're trying to figure out, well, how do we take care of our employees? How do we take care of our customers? And how do we just do good for the world right now? Because the world's got a lot smaller.
Yeah, I think that, and that's the thing. I think, we're seeing it on our side because we've got this thing called culture boards where we sort of build these pop-up board records for brands to help them not do all these stupid cultural faux pas. And we launched in January with that. And we were like having smaller conversations. But then once COVID and then George Floyd hit and lots of black squares started showing up on brands' social media platforms. And we were like, we saw a big shift where now brands like, actually, we have to actually say something, but it be smart. And how do we actually make meaningful, smart, lasting change? So it really is a time for brands to be bold, to step out, and not just, hope these things will go away. Like these crises can be used to point in the right direction.
I completely agree. And, it can't be seen as a PR move. I mean, when certain instances started to just happen with George Floyd or Black Lives Matter, I mean, so many brands just jumped to put out statements of solidarity, which is fine, but that's not an action of what you're going to do. I mean, there has to be action and substance behind really stepping out. And I think that consumers and customers are going to call brands to task, who doesn't feel authentic and who's not actually doing anything. I mean, this is the time to actually finally step up and make our industry a better place and actually hire more diverse, do better work, have teams that actually represent the clients you're trying to serve, as opposed to like having a team of people in a room that look like everybody looks like each other. I think that there's just been so many things that have been done a certain way for so long. And I think even if there's the best of intention, there's just so much unconscious bias that it never got fixed and it never got addressed. And, I think that brands that I'm seeing doing well are the ones that actually stepped up and actually are making actual plans to do better. And some are acknowledging, we haven't always gotten it right, but we're committed to do better. And this is where we're starting from, because everybody has to start somewhere.
Right. No, I think, sometimes brands are like, oh my God, I've done so many bad things in the past, but okay. But today's the first day to step forward and start making a positive change. Like, you could have historically redlined if you're a bank. Well, okay, today, one, you acknowledge that you did that, and you're going to, here are the steps you're going to take to like never do that again. And here's how you're going to invest in communities where you might have stepped over previously. Like there are ways you can do this stuff, but you have to acknowledge and then move forward.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that that's what I'm counseling my clients about. I mean, most of my clients are CEOs of major companies across many different sectors. And, the change starts at the top. And a lot of them will say to me, what do we do? And it's like, you have to really talk about the fact of acknowledge what's good, acknowledge what should be done better, acknowledge what's been done wrong, and then set a plan in action and empower a team to fix it or to address it.
Yeah. Empower a team, give your team budget, give your team, autonomy to work on this, but also put some real KPIs behind it. Because I think what we're oftentimes seeing now is that like it's a blanket statement, it's a blanket donation, and then it's like, well, I hope this all goes away now. Versus like, what's a real strategic plan with measurable outcomes tied to revenue, tied to budgets, tied to your bonus, so that people have real skin in the game.
That was one thing that I used to always talk about. And one of my previous roles was I used to say, the only way we're going to see change, we have to tie it to people's KPIs, and we need to incentivize them to do different and to do better. I completely agree with you.
So yeah, I'm hopeful. I think I'm more hopeful now than I was maybe 3 or 4 months ago. Because I definitely do see a shift. So I'm hoping that they'll continue to get it. But I also think that, a lot will happen. Depends on what happens with regard to our election and what happens when and if we ever have a vaccine in the next, several months. I think there'll be another shift in people's behavior and thoughts and how they view the world. Looking back on all of those things that you've done, like, what do you think one challenge you've had and you're like, there's no way I'm going to be able to get through this. And then you do.
I mean, I think that from my perspective, there's been many. I mean, there's been work challenges, there's been personal challenges. I mean, as you could probably imagine too, and you live it too, as a woman senior leader in our business. I mean, we always have a harder road than our male counterparts because there's lots of stereotypes that happen and misjudgments and all that stuff. But I would say, some of the biggest challenges I've had, I've just faced head on, where like I thought something couldn't be fixed, or I had a problem with a client that I thought I couldn't handle. Some of the biggest work that I've done, I did work with the government of Mexico years ago when I was at Ogilvy. And it was one of the biggest challenges we ever had, which was, how do we get tourists to go back to Mexico at a time when there was massive drug violence? And you turn on the TV every day and they're like, don't go to Mexico, you're going to die on the beach. And that was a huge challenge in the fact that we had to figure out how to make people feel comfortable and be educated about what was really going on in Mexico. And an advertising campaign wasn't going to fix that. It had to be a PR campaign. And so we worked to develop a narrative that explained what was going on in Mexico. That, and you probably know this, but now that I'm going to say it, but you don't think about it. So like when you talk about the US, you talk about New York, LA, Chicago, but when you talk about other places, you hear Mexico. You don't talk about Cancun or Cabo, it's Mexico. And so we made it a geography lesson, and we said, well, there were violence areas in Mexico, like in Juarez and other places like that, but there weren't violence in Cancun or in Los Cabos or even Puerto Vallarta. And we made it a geography lesson. We said, if something's happening in New York, does that mean you're not going to go to LA? Just showing them the geography, because most people, as we all know, are not very good at geography. And so we gave them a lesson. And over a 12 to 18 month period, we did like 300 press interviews all over the world to try to get the message right. And we actually helped them get record tourism back to Mexico after an 18-month period. And one of the coolest things was that one of my first clients when I started Sway was Gloria Guevara, the former Minister of Tourism of Mexico, who was my client for that project, which was very intense, I might tell you. And I got to meet all of our offices across Ogilvy, probably the first 18 months I was there, because I wasn't hired for that job. I was hired to be the head of media relations for the New York office. But they were, I think at that point, they had been through so many people on the account, they gave me a shot, and I clicked with the team, and were successful. And so the Minister of Tourism, Gloria Guevara, at the time, she became my first client at Sway, when now she's the head of the World Travel and Tourism Council based in London. So relationships matter, and work that you do that's good matters, because you never know when it's going to come full circle. And literally like 7 years later, we were working together again. Obviously, they're having their own challenges right now with the travel sector. We're not working together right now, but she was one of my first clients last year.
Wow. See, it all kind of comes full circle. I think that's a thing that is kind of amazing about this industry that we work in, where its relationships matter so very much. And oftentimes it's like the ones you go into battle with where you're like, oh my gosh, they're never going to forgive me or love me for this after this happens. But you made it through together with those folks. They're the ones who always come back. Like, I think I've had a few of those myself where it's been like, oh my gosh, did we just like go to war together? And then like 2 or 3 years later, they're at some bigger company at a senior level, and they're like, oh hey, like, can you help us with this thing? And I think that's key for a lot of younger folks in our industry to understand that, like, working hard, making those relationships, and not burning bridges is key to success.
Yeah, I mean, I will tell you, I mean, look, we won probably 2 or 3 of our accounts. I'd say 3 of our accounts through a competitive pitch process. But the rest of our business is all through former clients of mine that are now in their new roles and their new lives, and reached out and said, we want you on our team. And it's all those relationships over the years. If you deliver and you're a good advisor and you're a good person and you're a good like a counselor and partner to these folks, they don't forget. And eventually it all does come around. And, the folks that have stepped up since I started Sway, I mean, I probably completely underestimated how many relationships I had, because I was in my bubble where I had my last job for such a long time in this role, that I forgot how much I did and how many people I worked with. And when I started, like, the amount of people that reached out and were like, how do we do something together? And even with every story that gets published about what we're doing, I get like at least 5 text messages like in on my phone after every article comes out, just to say, like, what can we do together? So it's very cool, and the relationships do matter. And I think that especially at a time like this, they matter so much more, because we need to help each other.
We have to. I think that, there's all this like weirdness about the rat race and all, like, it's like all of our business today, especially since we have to pivot from being largely events to more on the, strategic consulting side, came through people who knew us. And it just is that's what you have to do. Like, you literally have to make those relationships. And even if it's harder now because we all can't go out for a cocktail, or, we can't like go and grab dinner, we still have to facilitate and foster those relationships, checking in on folks, having, a Zoom coffee, really quickly, or a Zoom cocktail, so that we know how people are doing. We keep folks top of mind because you never know where that's going to lead, and what interesting opportunities that will put in front of you that wouldn't have been there otherwise. You know, Thinking about all that, like, what do you think you'd probably tell 25-year-old Jen?
I would tell 25-year-old Jen, I would say be brave, go for what you want, ask for it because nothing's going to be given to you. You're going to work hard, but you're going to get to do some cool things and don't be scared.
Yeah, there's scaring. What's the big deal about being scared? Let's just go for it. What's the worst that could possibly happen to you?
Exactly.
Because it is what it is. Like, we're women in business. Like, weird, crazy stuff is going to happen. It just is a thing. Um, what do you think is going to happen in the next 12 to 18 months? Like, what are you sort of advising some of your clients as there's, lots of companies are sort of trying to build up their plans and how they're be communicating over the, next year, because we're going to be inside for probably another year. Um, if you had a crystal ball, where do you think we're headed?
I think we're going to continue to have a challenging time over the next, obviously to the end of the year, probably into the first half of next year, when we're probably going to start to see a little bit more normalcy. But I think that brands need to continue to be out there. They need to be connecting with their audiences. They need to be smart in what they invest in. I think that we've learned that we all can work in new and different ways. But I do think that what we have to think about doing is just remain committed to our missions, remain committed to our values, protect our teams, make sure we're taking care of our teams, because right now the work-life balance needs to be managed not only by the individual person, but by the managers and the people that are running businesses. We can't forget that in lieu of trying to keep the lights on or keeping businesses moving forward. We can't overwork and our folks, and we need to make sure that there's balance. But I think, we have to stay the course, but I don't know what the election's going to do in the US. That's going to obviously have ripples around the world. But I'm hopeful because I've seen, despite all of the negativity, despite all the political stuff going on and all of the challenges you're seeing, like, I live in New York, so I've seen the city is not at its best right now, far from it. But I've seen glimmers of people still connecting, and people still have the right spirit, and have a spirit that, we will move forward and we're going to rebuild and we're going to come back better, because the normal we knew is gone and there's going to be a new reality. And we just need to stay the course and have confidence in what we're doing as people. And then for businesses, they just need to continue to be authentic, and they need to just continue to move forward. I mean, I have a lot of healthcare clients that are doing some amazing work right now to make sure we all do get the vaccine and we all can get out of our houses. I mean, there is amazing work being done by people 24/7 that are just so committed to change, that it's so inspirational that I just want to help us. I want to help the good continue, and I hope all the bad stuff starts to go away soon, because it's exhausting.
It is really exhausting. Oh my gosh. Like, ugh. Speaking of which, I'm sure this is hard for us, you as an entrepreneur, as it is for me. What in the world are you doing for your self-care? Because, we're taking care of everyone. We're taking care of our staff. We're taking care of our clients. What are you doing to take care of Jen?
Well, as I said, I live in Manhattan, and every weekend I go to our beach house on Long Island because I need to have a break, and it's just to be out in the fresh air. And I'm still going to go in the winter just because it's my way of getting out of my apartment in the city. And I block my time. Like, I try not to work on the weekend, because when COVID first hit, I was working 24/7 like everybody, and I block my time, and I have a trainer that I work out with via Zoom 3 days a week. I just got a bicycle that I'm going to start to go riding on the boardwalk. I love to go out for dinner, and I've started to drink and make new and different types of drinks all summer long, just as a way to decompress and try some new things out. So yeah, I literally go every weekend to the beach to be by the water because it calms me.
Bless you on that one. I will say, similarly, I live in Manhattan and I got a bike back in July, back when there was like four left in all of the city of New York. After years of saying there'd be no way on God's green earth I'd ever get a bike in Manhattan. And then here I am now, at least once a week, riding up the Hudson River Railway for 20 miles. Because it actually is a great way to, one, see parts of the city you haven't seen, but just also just good to be out and get some fresh air. So I completely agree with you. You just gotta veg out and chill.
We're going to put it together this weekend because it's coming together, not together. We have to put it together, and I'm going to go on Sunday. Try it out. You can't be choosy when there's no bike. So you got to take what they got.
What did you end up getting?
I don't even know, but it looked good. So it looked like I could ride it.
Yeah, I knew nothing. I went down an insane rabbit hole of like REI and all these different sporting companies. And I didn't know there were this many bike shops in Manhattan. And then I ended up being on a mission today. And I went to three different stores. And the last store, it's like, we have three bikes left in our entire store. And I'm like, okay, cheapest one, please. and yeah. But
yeah, this bike was not expensive. It looks good enough. It'll fit the part, and it hopefully will go. And it has brakes on the handles, so that's all I wanted.
Yes, that's all. Honestly, that's the most important thing. But remember that the front brake is on the right, and the back wheel bike is on the left. Like that was something I didn't remember because I hadn't ridden the bike since I was, I don't know, 15. I was like, which is it?
Yeah, I went on a bike a couple weeks ago, which made me realize I went on a bike we have in our house a couple weeks ago, which made me realize I needed to get a new bike because this bike doesn't have brakes in the hands. It has brakes just on the feet.
Oh,
and
no.
It freaked me out. I'm like, I'm not 10 anymore. I can't do this.
This is the thing. It's like no. It's like I don't have that dexterity anymore as a small child who can just like slam my feet, or my knees will work that well. Like no, like, front wheel is a right, back wheel is a left. Like that's all you need to remember, and then everything else will kind of be okay with it. And then you'll remember. It's kind of like riding a bike. Like you will remember how to ride a bike.
Well, I mean, like, and then you like when I went on the bike, I had my earbuds in with my phone with music, and I was thinking to myself, this is why, like, when I was younger, it was easier. Besides the fact that I was just a little bit more agile, you didn't have music like this, so I also felt a little off balance. And I'm like, I shouldn't have the music on while I'm on the bike because I'm going to fall over, and then who's going to run the business? So I have to take care of myself.
I would say get a helmet, like. No matter where you are, get a helmet. Like get one of the good ones. Like there's a whole like article about best ones under $70. And audiobooks. Like I too kind of freaked by the music. I'm like, wait, I can't listen to music while I'm writing. No, audiobooks, which is like monotone. So it won't completely distract me from falling off the bike. Because again, same, if I fall off the bike, I'm gonna have a problem with the company.
It's like I realized that since COVID, I'm seeing like a lot of things I'm reverting back to doing when I was a kid. Like there's just certain things I like to do now. Like even if you watch, I don't even know if you watch it on Netflix, but I was a big Karate Kid fan, like when I was a kid. Now this whole new show, Cobra Kai, like all of these, like there's all these shows now going back. There's all this nostalgia. And I'm like, it's because we're all stuck in our houses. We just want comfort. We want comfort food. We want comfort things we know. And like, why not get a bike and just go be like a kid again?
This is the thing that I think is the best part. Is probably the only good gift about this is that we are sort of getting that neat little nostalgia, but we're also getting a chance to be a kid again. Like I had this idea for this. Funny how the world changes so crazily. We had this whole idea to do a festival called the Sandbox that we were going to do this past summer, and it was all about what happens when adults get to be a kid again, because we all get to play in the sandbox. Because we never have time to do this. We never have this time to like just kind of hang out and like have some adult play. and mix and mingle with folks. There's always some sort of agenda, and like where how do you get to play again? And of course, because of COVID, we couldn't do it. But when I think about it now, I'm all the things I'm doing now are very much like I want to be a kid again. So it's like, yeah, I totally like went back to eating Pop Tarts and like and riding a bike, and like reading books in bed, which I haven't done in a gazillion years. But like it's those are comfortable things that help get through this very, very insane time.
I know. I know. It's unbelievable. I haven't gotten out of sweatpants, and I went and bought Fabletics clothes because I got sick of wearing the pants I have because I wanted to change it up a little bit. But I'm not buying like anything dressy. I like for my birthday this year, I bought like Fabletics clothes. I'm like, what is going on? Because we don't go anywhere.
Well, I had this conversation with a friend of mine about, in defense of more expensive athleisure and what to call only because it's like, well, if I buy this nicer pair of like joggers from Athleta, for example, I'm going to wear them at least 15 times. So if you amortize that, then it's okay to spend $90 on them. Because like, am I going to wear jeans anytime soon? No. And how much would jeans normally cost? Like $100. So it's like, okay, so I'm just replacing the pants I normally wear with pants I'm going to wear. So I might as well be comfortable. So I am full on, okay, let's just, be comfortable, but professional. So, professional on top, very nice, comfy joggers in the bottom. Cause, what are you going to do? Like, and my heels hate me now. They're like, could you wear us? I'm like, nope.
I don't even know how I'm going to wear heels again because I'm like a huge like leather jacket, high heel person every day to work. And it's like, I don't even know how I'm going to put them on. I haven't worn heels since March.
You're going to fall over. You're going to fall over. Well, no question. Like, I was looking at my shoe closet the other day and I'm like, they're all full of dust. So I'm like, what? Oh, this is bad. I haven't, they must have think I hate them. I don't, but it's really nice sneakers now. Like, I think that's kind of where we're all headed. I don't foresee a reason why I'd want to wear heels anytime. Even when we go back, I'm kind of like, really? I've been really comfortable for the last year and change. I don't really need to go and wear high heels that are uncomfortable anymore. No thanks. So it'll be interesting to see how, again, that affects different companies and economies and who will be spending money on what going forward. Like, I'm much more on the experiences side now. Like, money I spend buying a bag, I'm now spending it on like a weekend at the spa. Cause at least that's something for me versus a bag. If I buy it, it'll just sit in the closet because I have nowhere to take it with me.
I bought my first pair of boots, fall boots this past weekend, just being hopeful I might wear them.
Oh, Jen, look at you living in hope. Like, I just bought more sneakers. I'm like, I'll buy cooler sneakers. But boots, we're not gonna listen. We have to live in hope. It's such a delight talking to you. The last question. Do you have a give and or an ask of the audience?
I think I want to ask folks to honestly support each other right now and to speak up and have a voice because we have to use our voice because we all have power to drive change. We always thought someone else was going to do it or it was above our pay grade to do it. But my ask is use your voice right now to do what you think needs to be done, not only in your job, but also in the world right now.
Awesome. That is a fantastic ask and a necessary one because people need to speak up everywhere. This is like being neutral and staying on sidelines is not an option anymore. So, that's so very key. Jen, you're just a delight to talk to and, full of wonderful wisdom that our audience will absolutely adore. So thank you so much for coming on the show. And we'll throw links into the Sway Effect so people can learn more about what you're doing online.
Thank you so much. This was so fun.
Cool. And that is our show.